Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this RSE webinar for 2026. I'm joined by Miss Curtin, and our plan is to talk through what RSE is all about in years 5 and 6. So aims of the webinar are as follows. There we go. So we want to share the curriculum aims for RSE. RSE stands for Relationships and Sex Education. We want to share an overview of what we actually teach in year 5 and 6 so that you know precisely what they're going to learn, and share an example of the resources that are used so that you can see the types of images, diagrams, text that is used alongside the teaching. And there's an opportunity for questions. So do feel free to pop those in the chat, and at the end there would be an opportunity to ask those questions. If you are watching this as a recording and you have questions, then you can ask those by emailing them to the info account, and they will be forwarded through to your year teams to answer. So the key points that I would like to start by kind of sharing are that RSE is obviously split into relationships and sex education. Relationships education is statutory, which means schools have to teach it. The DfE say that the focus within this should be on teaching the fundamental building blocks and characteristics of positive relationships, with particular reference to friendships, family relationships, and relationships with other children and with adults. Now, that is what we cover in PSHE really throughout the year. So that has happened already and will continue to happen as your child moves through the school with us. Sex education is not statutory, but it is recommended to be taught at an age-appropriate level in primary schools. Now, parents and carers do have a right to withdraw children from sex education above and beyond what is included already within the science curriculum. Now, sex education is what will be happening after half term in summer 2. Okay, so if you, after what we go through today, do not wish your child to undertake that sex education, then we would withdraw them from the lessons for the remainder of the year, and then they would not receive the sex education, which is recommended but not statutory. So I mentioned that the children have to take part in the science curriculum. Now, specifically what they have to learn in year 2 is that children learn that animals, including humans, have offspring that grow into adults. At that point, they're introduced to the concept of reproduction and growth, but not how reproduction occurs. Then in year 5, children are taught about the life cycles of animals, including reproduction. They learn about the changes that happen in humans from birth to old age. This includes learning what happens in puberty, and it touches on sort of periods too. So our children do this within their science curriculum. So there is no opt-out of this, but it happens in a separate subject. So if you choose to opt them out of sex education, other than these objectives, then they would not take part in their PSHE. For more information, we will share the guidance with you. This is what we as a school have to follow, particularly around relationships, which must be included. You will also receive some information about Jigsaw. So Jigsaw is our PSHE curriculum. It's a scheme that we use. Now, the reason that we use it is because it gives us the confidence to know that what we're teaching is age appropriate, is relevant to their age group, and is following all of the guidance, from the previous page. So it means we know and can be confident in what we're teaching. It also enables us to have progression through the school, so they're always building on what they've learned before. Now, Jigsaw is 6 different puzzle pieces, from Being Me in My World, which is all about learning about the self, which happens in autumn 1, through to Changing Me, which is the sex ed bit, which is now. And this overview you can see on the screen, although you may not be able to read the detail, has really kind of what's covered throughout that curriculum. So we will be sending that home along with this parent booklet, and the parent booklet gives you some information about Jigsaw as a whole and what it's all about, just for your information. So now I'm going to move on to Miss Curtin, and she will just go through what happens in year 5 and year 6 specifically.
Hi, everybody. So the year five objectives are outlined here. There's four that we cover over a variety of 6 lessons. The first one is looking about how the body changes, both for boys and for girls, looking at puberty and understanding the importance of looking after themselves, both physically and emotionally. And understanding that it's a natural process, it's going to happen whether they like it or not, and how to deal with it when it does. Then we move on to looking at how their bodies are going to change, expressing how those changes might make them also feel emotionally, understanding that sexual intercourse can lead to conception. And that's how babies are usually made. We do touch on IVF as well, and to also just appreciate how amazing the human bodies are, that we can reproduce young. And then for objective 4 at the bottom, it's to identify what they're looking forward to about becoming a teenager, making that transition from sort of childhood to early adolescence, those growing responsibilities that brings, the age of consent, and that they hopefully will be confident that they can cope with the changes that are upcoming. So these are some of the diagrams and some of the resources that we will use in the classroom, and these are consistent both across year 5 and year 6. So there's no surprises. The children will have seen these before. They're very scientific, and there are some small explanations attached to the pictures as well. And then these are some of the activities that in year 5 they may do. So you've got menstruation cards, sort of a sort and sequence, where the children can think about the process of menstruation. You've got some points of view from, the points of view of a child of their age, which they may be too embarrassed or worried to share, but they are already exposed to that. So any worries that they may have may come up on these points of view cards. And then we've got, some quizzes for them to sort of then consolidate their understanding and ask any further questions that they may have. Then when we get to year 6, we still have those 4 objectives which span the 6 lessons. And they are very similar, but obviously there's that increment in terms of the understanding and the depth in which we may go into things. So to explain how girls' and boys' bodies change during puberty again, and the importance of looking after themselves, but also to express how they're feeling about those changes and get the opportunity to ask questions. Number 2, just describing how a baby develops, so how that baby grows through the 9 months of pregnancy, how it's born, and to recognise how they might feel and reflect on the development and birth of a baby and how special that time is. To understand about being physically attracted to someone. So this is where it slightly changes from year 5, and that, there are that sort of 2 different relationships that now potentially might be something that they feel both a friend or a girlfriend and a boyfriend, and how to respect one another in that sort of more romantic side of a relationship, and how they should not feel any pressure of doing anything they don't want to do, and sort of all about finding a key adult if for any reason they feel that they are put under pressure. And then you've got just to be aware of the importance of self-esteem, and how those emotions that are going to start bubbling away and trying to find their balance as we sort of move from being a girl to a young lady and a boy to a young man, and how that might make them feel, and just to express how they feel about their self-image, and to challenge negative body talk and to do the right thing, and remember to listen to that moral compass. And then these are some of the resources that we are going to use in year 6. So you've got some key vocabulary which we go through, some of which they will have heard or been exposed to before, and some of which they won't, all done in a very respectful manner, and from a very scientific perspective. Then we've got the examples of the diagrams, again, very similar to year 5, so nothing is a surprise. And we talk through those again with the children and make sure that they understand. And then some of the activities that we do, so sort of gender specific worries, and we do some of our lessons with just the boys and some of our lessons with just the girls, but at the same time we do lots of joint lessons, because it's important that both the boys and the girls understand what the opposite sex are going to go through, so there can be that mutual respect, but also we do it separately so that they all have an opportunity to a bit more privacy, and so that they can ask some of those questions that it may be slightly embarrassed to ask in front of the girls or the boys asking, what I mean, vice versa. So here are some of the worry cards that we can talk through, so some misconceptions that they may have learn from other areas that we can put to bed and make sure that they know that lots of things that happen are going to be completely normal. And then the should I, shouldn't you cards, really sort of challenging the moral compass, thinking about what's right, what's wrong. And if we were put in those situations, how could we manage it in a respectful way? So these are some of the resources we use.
Thank you so much, Miss Ketten. That's fabulous. So some children may need some further support or resources. As a school, we really pride ourselves on making sure that we're inclusive. That might mean for some children having some work alongside the RSE learning where they talk about it in a smaller group, maybe go through or go over some of those resources again, have the opportunity to ask further questions and really just kind of do a bit more learning around it to really help embed that. Typically, we would sort of identify those pupils, but would, of course, if that affected your child, would let you know that we feel that needs to happen and get your consent for that, and really just let you know what they would be doing. If you would like any more information about how we can support pupils with SEN, with this learning, you have the inclusion account on the screen there. So inclusion@gravelands.surrey.sch.uk. If you've got any questions around that, please do let us know. Some top tips for you. I think it's really important that we are open and honest whilst being age appropriate with children. So for you guys at home, they probably will be curious and come home with questions. I think it's just about having fun with it, responding to their curiosity, ensuring that as far as possible that we're honest with them. But there may be some things that they ask it's not appropriate, or you feel it's not appropriate for them to know yet, and that's fine to say to them too. If you have any questions or want to pick our brains on how you can, talk about something with your children, if you're not sure, please do let us know, and we'll do our best to help. I think from a school perspective, what I would say that, we are quite conscious that, we have a curriculum to teach, and, there are objectives within that, and the focus is on those objectives. And if children ask us questions that fall outside of those objectives, then we would tend to say, that's something that you would discuss at home, with your parent or carer, because we wouldn't want to take them further than we feel that it's necessary to take them. And we are respectful that parents and carers have a really important role in deciding what their children learn and when. So we will cover the curriculum and we will follow the resources that are there. But if children have those questions that we feel might be beyond age appropriate, then we wouldn't respond to those, and we would direct them to you sensitively, so that they know their questions are important, but that's something that will be discussed at home. So if you have any questions, there are no questions throughout, and I will stop the share. And Sheena, it's just you today. So did you have any questions, or is there anything you want to learn more about?
No, I think you covered it beautifully. So all good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sheena, and to anyone watching at home.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss Curtin, for delivering the content too, and we'll see you soon. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.